I know next to nothing about Touhou. It's a series I've only heard about and seen glimpses of through live streams of someone playing or just through internet memes. Every time one of my friends that are in the know with Touhou try explaining anything about it to me, it would usually boil down to me just nodding my head and saying, okay. Having said that, while a lot of it did fly over my head, I never really made a concerted effort to learn about the series in the first place until a certain something caught my attention. More on that later. Touhou Project, or just Touhou, is a bullet hell shoot 'em up series where your main goal is to shoot all the baddies that appear on screen, while not letting yourself get shot. Starring Reimu Hakare and her probably platonic friend Marisa Kurosame, they task themselves with solving whatever supernatural incident happens to be going on in Gensokyo for each particular game. Gensokyo being a place mostly inhabited by yokai and sealed away from the outside world so humans wouldn't be eaten by them. I'd say more, but there's a lot of games. And a lot of lore, too. They're kind of short, but they're pretty hard, and they have multiple endings depending on if you use continues and what character you play as. Aside from a couple fighting game spin-offs, the main series is spearheaded and mostly created by one person. Or one team, rather, of whom goes by Zune. Team Shanghai Alice, if you want to be more official, but I think part of what makes this series so popular is, well, how lenient the creator is with fan projects. There are some guidelines to follow, of course, but it mostly boils down to just using common sense. Link in the description if you're curious. But as a result of these barely constraining guidelines, there has been a lot of fan work over the years. Like a mountain of fan content. Maybe 2 mountains. We're talking print works, music, fan animations, music videos like that time Bad Apple made it onto a CNN news story because of how insanely popular it got. Of which the news story in question was, yeah. Merch? Oh, don't get me started on the Fumos. And many video games. Memes as well, check this shit. Simpler times. With how much of this fan content there is, there's speculation by some people on whether or not true Touhou fans have actually played the main games. For all I know, it might even be true that some Touhou fans' first exposure to the Touhou games weren't actually the main games. But knowing what I know now, even if that's true, I think that's okay. Shmups aren't everyone's cup of tea, and you don't really need to engage with the mainline games if you just want to listen to the music, or learn about the characters, or play the myriad of fan games released over the years, of which vary in genre, and therefore cater to basically everyone that doesn't hate Touhou for some reason. Or watch Fumo Reimu getting deep fried to satiate your inner demons. How did I get here? How did I find myself falling into a rabbit hole of Touhou's history and wide range of fan content despite never truly growing interest for the series in the past? What changed? Well, it's not an uncommon story, I have to imagine. Sometimes, it just takes the right place, the right time, and the right thing to set up a chain of events that would lead a curious outsider into a world they have never seen before. This was my first real interaction with Touhou. Touhou, Artificial Dream in Arcadia, or ADiA as it's sometimes referred to. It's a dungeon-crawling RPG that marries the setting and characters of Touhou with the gameplay of Shin Megami Tensei. Not the newer titles, but more so the Famicom era of SMT, mirroring gameplay, sounds, and aesthetics. You play as Sumireko Usami, a high schooler who has the ability to visit Gensokyo in her dreams. She also has a gun. One day, while showing Reimu a cat picture on her phone at Hakare's shrine, Marisa tells us that a yokai has stolen some books from her friend and wants help getting them back. Reimu couldn't give less of a damn about this, so the task falls to you, and you're hit with the first, or should I say, not quite the first dungeon. After making short work of the supposed book thief, you are unceremoniously awakened by your teacher from sleeping through class, and get sent home for your summer break. and you bet your ass you're going to be spending that summer in Gensokyo. Upon returning, you end up back at the shrine with no one in sight, but that's not the weirdest part. No, it's actually the massive looming monolith that's appeared in the area. Marissa, at the base of the monolith, tells you that it just suddenly appeared without much notice, and clone versions of Gensokyo's residents started to pop up, which they've taken to calling sleepers. She then tells you to simply stay out of this incident and let her and Reimu handle it like they usually do. That warning doesn't stick with us for very long though, as we then get a weird message on our phone from an anonymous user telling us to show someone a nuclear reactor, with a download link to an app as well. Ignoring the fact that we probably just ended up on a list somewhere, we ask Marissa about any nuclear reactors that happen to be in the area, and she casually tells us that there's one in the underworld, still reaffirming that we stay out of this. But of course, that's not how this is going to go. And just like that, you're off. Yeah, no, seriously. It's a short introduction, but it sets up the adventure pretty well. Who is this person sending these messages? What are sleepers, and why do they not talk or interact with everyone else? And why are they only attacking you? It's understandable that Reimu and Marissa would want you to stay out of this, but why is Reimu not letting you into the human village despite also being human? Actually, that might just be because she doesn't like you. Might also be why almost everyone else you talk to acts super passive-aggressive towards you, outright attacks you, or just calls you stupid and expects you to die in a ditch somewhere. Honestly, from their perspective, I would understand. Sumireko's kind of an asshole. Some of them are friendly though, like Akiyu in the human village. She's super patient with people and always gives you hints on where to go next. Sometimes, proceeding to investigate on your own, you are going to see a lot of the popular sites in Gensokyo. From the underworld and former hell, to the Scarlet Devil Mansion, to actual hell, the metaphorical hell. This game has a ton of dungeons, some with multiple floors and really big maps. This is pretty much the meat of the game. When you aren't dungeon diving, you're in a village getting ready to, or in the overworld going to your next dungeon. Nearly every area is visually unique. Most of them come with a unique dungeon theme too, it's great. Every track here fits every area and moment in the game. Sometimes moody, sometimes intimidating, but this OST is such a damn vibe. My favorite's gotta be the battle tracks. Which one? Yes. They're so energetic and fast-paced, and they fit tonally as you get further in and the stakes get higher. I love the little prelude that plays right before every battle starts. It creates this anticipation that shit is about to go down. Hot take? Every RPG needs to have this going forward. My least favorite tracks are honestly the overworld and the village themes. They're just a little too short and loop too quickly, and they get a bit repetitive because of that. The village theme especially, because it feels like it's just missing half of a song. At least you're not in those parts of the map for too long. I won't talk about the story too much more in this video, though there might be some visual spoilers for areas and enemy encounters later in the game. That said, it doesn't really get any deeper than answering these few questions. The story is more like a driving force to direct you towards your next dungeon, and you don't really need to care about what's going on, so long as you have a fun time. And it is a fun adventure, but if you go into this game expecting something deeper in its plot, you're gonna leave pretty disappointed. It's more like you're living and experiencing the world around you, and all these little adventures eventually culminate towards reaching the top of the monolith. It's less about the journey's end and more so the journey itself. You're a small part of this big world, and you're here for the ride, not the end. The actual gameplay loop is exploring Gensokyo to try and solve the incident while fighting off any sleepers you come across, leveling up while making your party, and revisiting the human village from time to time to restock your essentials or sell stuff you don't need. Your goal is to mainly find the end of the dungeon. That end either to find an item needed to progress or to take another picture for that person sending you those weird messages. There's also a boss at the end, so that dungeon is kinda like your training ground for the moment. They occasionally throw in some puzzles here and there, like pitfalls and some other very old school dungeon design choices from time to time, but you'll have a map, so you won't always get lost. There is one thing you should especially pay attention to while running around, and that's the battery meter at the top left of the screen. As you explore, it gradually decreases. The higher level your party members are relative to your level, the faster it drains. And once it hits 0, your phone dies. What does this mean? You lose access to your map, access to your backup party members, and all of your current party members get desummoned, leaving you completely alone. Getting lost in the middle of a dungeon with a dead phone and no escape items is pretty much a death sentence. When you do prep for it though, it's honestly not that bad at all. You can get upgrades that let you keep your current party from desummoning when your battery runs out. You can also get an upgrade that slows down how fast you lose power in general. If that's still not enough, you can get spare batteries quite easily to give yourself a small boost, whether that comes from buying them in a shop or from fighting sleepers. More on that in a bit. It becomes a very forgiving and sometimes inconsequential system, but it does enough to highlight the importance of planning. Some of these dungeons get quite long, and while there may be save points and healing spots somewhere in the dungeon, it never hurts to have these things on hand, just in case. After all, it's just as easy to buy a set of light bulbs from the shop as it is to get your ass beat in an ambush. Making money isn't very hard anyways. This whole sleeper incident's really gonna screw over the economy, huh? Fighting sleepers comes in the form of turn-based combat. Pick your actions, confirm, and watch the turn play out. But of course, there's layers to this. This game has an affinity chart that needs to be respected, involving 2 types of physical attack and 5 types of magic. Think of it like rock, paper, scissors. Hit an enemy with something it's weak to, you do more damage, and vice versa. Some enemies also drain certain types of attacks as well, so keep that in mind too. It's a system that's easy to pick up and understand, but has a lot more depth when looking further into it. Buffs and debuffs, for example, play quite a massive role here. They can be stacked up to 3 times and effectively control the flow of a battle. Some bosses' entire gimmicks are to use an ability to set up buffs and try to wipe you on the spot. Buffs and debuffs are also just as easy to dispel as they are to apply, thanks to the Atma skills. So having control over buffs will make some boss fights significantly easier, and in some cases, survivable. As far as difficulty goes, there's a really good balance here. I played with the Lunatic Realm more turned on, so I might have a somewhat skewed opinion, but I never felt like battles were too easy or too hard. Most of the time when I died, it never felt like it was out of my control, just that I didn't account for certain things, like my affinities. The punishment on death might be a bit cruel for some people. You lose XP and can even level down if you lose too much, but I always reloaded my save when I died anyway, so I never felt this as much. Though while leveling down is painful, I never felt like I had to grind that much throughout my playthrough. Money besides. Raw numbers won't always cut it. You can be a few levels higher than an enemy and they can still beat your ass if you don't play smartly. But hell, adjusting your party comp and using buffs can turn a fight around pretty easily. There's another mechanic that plays into battles though. After the tutorial dungeon, you unlock SP. SP is shown as this little meter between the camera and the party list. You can build up SP by killing enemies and passing turns in battle, but you gain significantly more SP when you strike enemy weaknesses. However, you can also lose SP if the enemy hits your weaknesses, so covering up your affinities as best you can is vital to using the system well. With SP, you can cast a variety of abilities from your phone, which effectively act like a free action right before the turn starts. These abilities, which I call SP actions, range from party-wide buffs and debuffs to full healing to analyzing enemy strengths and weaknesses. Most importantly, this includes the ability to hijack sleepers. This will initiate a minigame, one Touhou fans and bullet hell enthusiasts will be very familiar with. This is your character, and this is the sleeper you're trying to hack. If you win a Zanmaku, I think that's what it's called, against said sleeper, you'll hijack it and be able to convert it into either money, items, or a new party member if you don't already have a copy of it. Don't worry, your character isn't indicative of your hitbox, it's actually pretty small. Think of it like you're a single-celled organism and your hitbox is closer to the center of your character. That'll make dodges like this a little more comfortable. It's fun that most of them have unique bullet patterns too, some even loosely mimic the ones in the shoot-'em-ups. Having developed a newfound sense of fear from fighting Sakuya in Touhou 6, I was a little nervous when it came to the minigame here. Seems like her sleeper counterpart doesn't have as much bite here. Thank fuck. Don't worry though, if you don't like the Danmakus for whatever reason, you can change it. At any of the save points, these portals called anomalies, there's a Grimoire setting that lets you replace the minigame with a chance to recruit a sleeper, which scales off of your int and luck stats. Nice reference. There's a lot of Grimoires to get actually, and they basically just add extra modifiers to the gameplay experience, featuring things like CBT, anti-racism, or even a mode that lets you forego the entire party comp and just solo the game with an uber buff protagonist. I digress. I think it's neat the dev added something for those that don't like the Danmakus, but it's nice that the recruitment process is something a bit more interactive and skill-based. And admittedly less frustrating. Sadly, it does mean you'll be missing out on such iconic and memorable dialogue the SMT series is known for.
Thou wishes me to join with thee. I see. My decision wavereth. DiCaprio is unable to decide. Another party member tried nagging the demon. Whoa, woman! Be gone, prating knave! There was no effect. For DiCaprio's claims, for it is Pride Month, therefore thou wast gay. More I say, empty thy pockets as thou hast emptied my patience, heterosexual.
Regardless, this is how you're going to be recruiting your team, for the most part, and you're going to be doing this a lot. But aside from hijacking and some of the other things I mentioned, you can get more SP actions by going to one of the many terminals located across Gensokyo and buying them with the money you've been earning from your battles. Some are very expensive, but if you can get them sooner than later, it will make life so much easier. Some of them are just little safety nets that prevent you from getting into bad spots. Some of them are so good, they can turn a fight completely on its head. Sometimes it makes a difference between winning and losing, and sometimes you can make whole strategies around them. Your sleepers can also learn SP actions, though these will take the sleeper's turn to use. Some are kinda niche and not super great, but some of them are absolutely busted. Imagine being able to play twice in one turn and setting up 2 turns worth of buffs for the cost of 1. Imagine bringing a dead sleeper back in your party instantly with a single skill instead of having to spend 1 or 2 turns resummoning them into the fight, which could take resources and time you might not be able to spare, especially with bosses. Seriously, they do not screw around here. So neither should you. Introducing the Sleeper Fusion program. Name pending. You might have seen it earlier when I was showing off SP actions, but when the sleepers you find around the dungeon just aren't enough for you anymore, your other avenue for new party members is to fuse them into better ones. This is where all the magic happens. This is where the insane SMT fan inside me starts to show itself, as you will probably spend actual hours in this menu. I think I spent a combined 3 or 4 in my 40-ish hour playthrough, just looking through the menu and theory crafting possible builds. That sounds maniacal, I know, but it's in the name. You take 2 sleepers that are compatible, pick out the skills you want for them, and then fuse. Those sleepers get liquefied, and you get your new friend. That's not the only thing you can do here though. You can also sacrifice any sleepers you don't need to other sleepers to give them a big chunk of XP. You might notice as you play that your sleepers start to fall behind a bit in XP, and you can use this to catch them up, so to speak. You can also pass on skills via skill transfer. Same thing as sacrifice, but instead of XP, it lets you change out the skills of the sleeper you're transferring to. The only caveat with this is that you can't directly transfer SP actions with this method. You'll have to pass it on using fusion, which can be a bit of a process sometimes. But this is still a very crucial feature, not just for sleepers, but for Sumireko as well. It's the only way she can learn other moves outside of her starting kit. Lastly, affinity transfer. This just lets you transfer whatever affinity a sleeper might have directly onto Sumireko. Take this Kadama for example. You would be better off using literally any other sleeper's affinity, but if you desire to have 4 elemental weaknesses on Sumireko for shits and giggles, you can do that. And good luck with that. With this one act, I embody the spirit of Miko. Warning, this is the part where I geek out a lot. This video is about to become all over the place, get ready. The coolest part about this entire fusion system is that you can use any sleepers you want for your party. and they will always stay strong. You can always give them new skills since they don't learn any from leveling up, and you can level them up very quickly with sacrificing. The only thing that could hold them back are their affinities, which could be a struggle in certain parts of the game, so it depends on what you're willing to put up with. You like Patchouli? Cool. You can keep her as long as you want to. Just occasionally sacrifice some sleepers for XP and skills to keep her on par with you. Suddenly decide that you want her to be a reserve healer, give her some healing abilities, throw her into the back of the line, and forget about it. Do you like this weird bucket thing? Feed it a bunch of sleepers and make it into a bloodthirsty murder machine that'll cut someone's head off and keep it in her bucket as a trophy to take home. The options are nigh endless, and this system allows people to maximize their party's potential, let people use their favorite characters, or both. I adore this system. There's so much freedom here, so many different characters and potential team comps, and weird but funny and slightly gimmicky strategies to mess around with. Sumireko is just as flexible, by the way. Maybe even more so. She can use different kinds of equipment, sometimes having weird effects on them, like this syringe, for example. It does piss all for damage and makes your gun attack next to worthless, but you heal yourself for 20% of the damage you deal. It sounds useless, but if you don't plan on using your gun for some reason, it's better than leaving your gun slot completely obsolete. And the healing could be nice too, because if Sumireko dies, you're instantly kicked back to the real world. Sumireko gets stat points every time she levels up, 3 points per level. If you aren't happy with your choices later, Byakuran at the Mayoran Temple will let you reset your stats whenever you want to for a small fee. I don't know exactly where that money goes, but I wouldn't question it. I'd rather not learn about it and then accidentally get hit by her motorcycle the next day. If you want my advice, pick something that seems interesting and just commit to it. If they aren't your main stats, then kick a point towards agility or luck from time to time. If it stops feeling fun or becomes unviable, then reset your stats and try something else. Besides the menuing, it's a pretty seamless system. I think my only gripe with sleeper fusion comes from the compendium and not having a way to sort sleepers by any specific case. Every time you need to find a specific one for any reason, you might have to scroll all the way through the list for it, and it can get pretty tedious after a while. Aside from that bit of quality of life though, this system is like almost perfect. There's just so much variety with building a team in this game, from weird skills that enable strategies to just the variety of sleepers with different stats and affinities. Of course, some are probably better than others, but the concept of just mashing two things together to make an even stronger thing is just fun to me. Artificial Dream in Arcadia is inarguably inspired by classic SMT. Pretty much all of this game, except story and setting, was the inspiration. It knows what it wants to be. Even if it wasn't, though, this is still a great dungeon crawler. The dungeons are interesting, encounters, bosses, and random fights are well balanced. The gameplay and systems it takes its inspiration from are tuned nearly perfectly, and I never felt a moment where I was actually bored with the game. To say the least, I had a pretty good time. The only real low point for this game was its story, which isn't taken very seriously, and I personally felt like it didn't mire the experience anyway, so meh. If you like dungeon crawlers with a shake of retro, a dash of masochism, and a stupidly large amount of party variety, you should definitely check this game out. Hell, I didn't even mention the dungeon editor yet. A whole ass dungeon creator where you can make your own dungeons in-engine. The modding scene is very much still in its infancy, but it's still really cool that this is even here. Before I got the idea to make this video, I did a casual playthrough on my own about a year or so ago. I had fun, but I wasn't sure if it would be an interesting topic after I moved on from it. But fast forward to just before writing the script, I've had this game in the back of my mind ever since I finished it. I just really wanted to talk about it. It's easily one of the best dungeon crawlers I've played in a long time. It's $10 on Steam, and also very recently got console releases to the Switch and PlayStations 4 and 5. But if you're still on the fence about it, try the demo. Though, if you're playing this on console, note that they don't seem to have a demo at the moment. I hope that changes soon. And I'll be honest, even after falling down this rabbit hole, I still feel like I don't know much about Touhou, so I wouldn't really identify myself as a Touhou fan. But I love this game. You don't need to engage with the main series just to find something interesting in the fan work that comes from it. Not saying that the foundation isn't important and doesn't need to be recognized, but to me, Touhou is whatever you want to make of it. It's a bizarre and fantastical world full of interesting and unique characters, but also a space that lets people express themselves in their own ways, using this world to connect to other fans of this world, or in my case, catch the eye of someone that wasn't familiar with it, whether that's through a little doodle of your favorite character, making a whole ass anime, or an RPG inspired by one of your favorite RPG series. ADiA is one of these great many examples out there, and considering how dedicated and inspiring these projects are, I'm sure there's something out there for everyone, Touhou fan or otherwise. Thanks for watching.